Imagine BeBe and CeCe Wen, the most adored brother-sister combo in gospel music, returning to the stage together after years of rumored animosities. Now Marvin Winans finally speaks up, explaining why they left and how a heartbreaking secret almost destroyed the Winans family as a whole. You'll want to hear every astounding detail, I promise. The Winans are the name that comes to mind when you think of gospel royalty. BeBe and CeCe Winans are legendary, not just artists thanks to their soul-stirring messages and soaring harmonies. However, a more profound tale has been simmering behind the shimmering church spotlights and gleaming microphones. One that was characterized by quiet separation and now a startling reunion that has the gospel community in stitches. What actually transpired between Marvin Winans and BeBe CeCe? Why is Marvin now claiming that he was abandoned by this once unbreakable musical family? And why are BeBe and CeCe making their surprising 2025 return? We're delving deeply into the unseen realities behind the scenes in this video. You won't believe the journey that brought you to this emotional breaking point, which included everything from minor family conflicts to pressures from the workplace and yes, even religious disputes, and Marvin's eventual admission. To put it mildly, it alters your perception of gospel's first family. Stay tuned because near the end of this video we'll reveal the emotional repercussions Marvin has carried for years, in addition to what led to BeBe and CeCe's reunion. And believe me, things start to get interesting at this point. Glory existed before the gap and before the stillness. The Winans family changed gospel music, not just introduced it, and three remarkable voices were at the center of that change. Winans, Marvin, CeCe and BeBe. BeBe and CeCe broke barriers in the 1980s, when gospel music was still heavily influenced by traditional sounds. When their first album Heaven was released in 1988, it was a spiritual bombshell that combined gospel, soul and R&B in a way that had never been heard before. They quickly took over mainstream venues, Billboard charts and Christian radio. The combination of BeBe's soulful, silky tone and CeCe's heavenly soprano paved a new path. They were more than a pair, they were a movement. The elder brother Marvin Winans had already solidified his position as gospel royalty. He had won numerous Dove Awards, Grammys, and the respect of gospel purists for upholding the music's sanctity and the message's purity, while he was a member of the Winans. Marvin was regarded as the more conventional one, the voice of the preachers and the pillar of the faith. Marvin, BeBe, and CeCe were the cornerstones of a musical dynasty that had spiritual significance in addition to success. They are a source of inspiration, worship, and hope for churchgoers. But there is pressure to be famous. Furthermore, the earliest seeds of discord can frequently be sown by family success, and that's precisely what began to occur. However, this is the part that nobody anticipated. It wasn't just a professional gradual fade. Insiders claim that it grew very personal, and Marvin was the one who felt and anticipated it the most. The dazzling lights of solo celebrity started to entice BeBe and CeCe into separate professions as the 1990s approached. The two had always presented a united face, but the demands of the music business started to change their course. With her incredible debut solo album, CeCe Winans in particular became a breakthrough solo artist. She received numerous honors and rose to prominence in gospel music as a representation of female strength. Meanwhile, BeBe had a slightly different target demographic in mind. Although BeBe was well known for fusing his gospel heritage with more modern R&B sounds, his solo albums tended to be more popular, even working with non-gospel singers. Although it was a daring approach, Marvin Winans in particular didn't like it. Gospel historians and industry insiders claim that Marvin started to express concerns behind the scenes. At first, anxiety was not visible to the public, but family members saw it growing. As an ardent supporter of traditional gospel, Marvin was committed to preserving the spiritual message. Despite their artistic brilliance, he apparently concerned that BeBe and CeCe's path was deviating too much from the spiritual foundation upon which they were raised. This is where the stinging begins. It was more than just a creative difference in Marvin's mind. During a now famous speech at the Perfecting Church in Detroit, he perceived it as a spiritual shift. Marvin made reference to people who did not use the gospel for worship, but rather for applause. Although he never gave names, many people were suspicious that he was referring to his own siblings in a subtle way because of the timing of his remarks. Even more interesting is the fact that, although they had previously been the focus of attention at every significant event Marvin hosted, BeBe and CeCe did not attend the church anniversary that year. the whispers became louder. There was a lot of conjecture on gospel forums as fans questioned, what's going on with the Winans? Did they fight? Were they overgrown by one another? Was it fame or fortune, or perhaps something more profound? This is where it becomes even more sentimental though. According to reports, Marvin reached out in private to make amends, and what transpired left him devastated. Marvin Winans said nothing for years. Marvin remained silent as the gospel community and fans conjectured about the widening divide. He gave sermons. He sang. He was the head of his church. Behind the pulpit and the well-rehearsed performances, however, was a man who was silently bearing the scars of separation, not only from the industry, but also from his own blood. In 2025, that silence was eventually broken when Marvin made an incredibly moving appearance on the Faith and Family podcast. He stated that he needed to speak the truth, not to cause pain but to bring about healing. Gospel circles were rocked by what he revealed. BeBe CeCe have always had the gift, Marvin remarked in an emotional voice. But somewhere along the line the claps drowned out the call. Marvin claims that there were innumerable missed calls, declined invitations and avoided conversations. I tried reaching out. I tried to be there. But they left me a long time ago. Not just physically, but spiritually. He didn't speak with anger. He spoke with pain. He didn't call them out. He called them home. He talked about years of attempting to unite the family for ministry as well as music. His description of a Christmas party planned for the whole Winan clan was one of the most moving parts. Except for BeBe and CeCe, everyone arrived. There was stillness, no reply text, no explanation. Marvin added, "That night, I watched their old videos with my grandchildren, and I smiled because I'm proud of them. However, I was crying on the inside since those voices are more than simply voices to the outside world. I miss them since they are my family." He continued by saying that there are two sides to success in gospel music. It provides you visibility, platform, and impact. However, if you're not careful, it may require family, spiritual foundation, and genuine connection. Marvin's confession, however, went beyond simple sadness. Forgiveness was another aspect of it. He answered, "I have nothing against them. But since quiet can often be louder than a shout, I had to quit acting like everything was fine." A door that had been closed for a long time was opened by this interview. The number of gospel blogs surged. Support, fury, and even prayers were poured into comment sections by fans. Some stood up for CeCe and BeBe. Others took Marvin's side. The Winans were no longer the only family divided. Now it was being played out in public. Here's the unexpected twist though. Days after the release of Marvin's podcast, BeBe and CeCe unexpectedly showed up at an Atlanta gospel event. Let's just say that what they did next left everyone in the arena, and the startled quiet of those who watched online. On July 6, 2025, a sold-out gospel concert with some of the top stars in the business took place at the Atlanta Praise Festival. It was just another night like any other. However, nobody could have foreseen what was going to happen, not even the exhibition organizers. The house lights went down in the last hour of the performance, right as the MC was about to introduce the closing act. The stage was illuminated by a single spotlight. Then the room was filled with the distinct sound of CeCe Winans' voice. Joy counted all. The crowd froze, even when smiling seemed so difficult. Cell phones exploded into the air. People let out a shout. The tears started to fall. However, when BeBe Winans entered the stage directly behind her, his voice harmonizing flawlessly, as if no time had passed, the scene became historic. Because of what the music represented as well as the song itself, the audience gave a standing ovation. BeBe and CeCe performed together for the first time in more than 7 years. More significantly, it was the first indication to the public that they might have heard Marvin's suffering. However, it didn't end there. As the choir subdued and the instruments grew softer in the middle of the concert, BeBe took the stage and performed something unexpected. "We want to say this moment isn't just about music, it's about healing," he added before we closed. A gasp went through the audience as CeCe said, "We love you, Marvin. We always have, and we hear you. We know people have been talking, and yes, we've been distant. Sometimes life pulls you away before you realize how far you've gone. But tonight we're coming back, not just to the stage, but to our family." He wasn't given a name for applause. To make peace they uttered his name. Marvin, however, was not present. He hadn't even received an invitation to the function. In fact, a source close to the One Circle claims that Marvin was crying as he watched the entire performance live from his Detroit home. Later he said on Instagram, "Sometimes reconciliation begins with a song. I'm listening." There were no comments or hashtags, simply an honest, heartfelt message that showed he had been touched. Not everyone was persuaded, though. Social media critics claimed that rather than being a sincere act of healing, the reunion felt more like a publicity stunt. Others noted that CeCe and BeBe had yet to directly address Marvin's podcast revelation in public. Was this reunion staged for the cameras and gospel headlines, or was it a genuine reunion of family? There's more, though. Deeper dimensions of the narrative were revealed by what transpired backstage following the performance. Layers that include a lengthy letter, a private phone call, and a compelling invitation that Marvin has not yet responded to. The Praise Festival in Atlanta was over. The crowd had dispersed. No fan or camera caught the much more private and emotional event that was taking place behind the velvet curtains and roped-off security zones, even though the lights had dimmed. Following their incredible performance and sincere devotion to Marvin, CeCe sat by herself in the dressing room, pen in hand, Bible by her side. CeCe was clearly shaken and reflecting deeply, according to a witness who spoke to Gospel Truth Weekly, but asked to remain anonymous. She penned a handwritten note to Marvin that evening. Although the letter's contents are unknown, many close to the family say it was an honest, open admission of what had been lost, and a request to mend the relationship that had been shattered by schedule conflicts and spiritual miscommunications. She gave it everything she had. It wasn't for show, according to the source. The press wasn't the reason. Marvin was the recipient. In that letter she made statements she hadn't made in decades. BeBe apparently made an effort to get in touch as well. He called Marvin directly after the performance. BeBe followed up with a brief personal text rather of leaving a message when the phone went to voicemail. "When you're ready, so are we. Let's have a conversation. You are missed." Marvin didn't answer right away. Insiders said that he required room. It was time to deal with the long-lasting private grief, as well as the public gesture. The letter was delivered by courier to Marvin's residence in Detroit the following day. 3 days later, Marvin was spotted carrying that exact letter, folded, frayed, and tucked into his Bible, as he entered Perfecting Church. Although he made no mention of it in his Sunday sermon, there was a discernible change in his enthusiasm. He seemed lighter, as if a burden had been removed, according to one congregation member. The story doesn't stop there, though. Marvin revealed that his siblings had offered him words of consolation in a follow-up interview with a nearby gospel radio station, but he made it plain that healing takes time. "This isn't a concert. There's no headline here. It's a procedure. However, I'm currently available. Before I wasn't, and perhaps God had always intended for me to be there." Additionally, he alluded to a significant event that would occur in the fall of 2025, a possible family worship event that would include not only BeBe and CeCe, but also the Winans family as a whole, including Ashley, CeCe's daughter, and his own kids. Fans are still split, though. Some are optimistic, describing the reunion as a supernatural miracle, and saturating social media with prayers and emojis of praise hands. Others are dubious, citing the years of silence, the unresolved conflict, and the fact that the siblings haven't, at least not yet, met in public. But one thing is for sure, the quiet has been broken. Reconciliation's initial seeds have been sown, and the Wan siblings have started to move back toward one another, whether it's through handwritten messages, sermons, or songs. And it might be more than simply a reunion if this worship night does take place. It might turn out to be one of the most therapeutic historical events in the history of gospel music. But there's always one more twist to a story that seems to have achieved its climax. A new rumor has begun to circulate across industry boardrooms, fan sites, and gospel blogs, as rumors of healing reverberate through the gospel community. A full-length, intensely emotional joint production from BeBe CeCe and Marvin Winans. A reunion album is more than simply a single performance or a symbolic moment on stage. And this might be more than just an album if the rumors are accurate. It might be the last bow for the most powerful family in gospel.
Talks are under progress, according to many industry sources, including a person close to CeCe's management team. The project, which is said to be called The Return, would be the first time the three women siblings had recorded together in almost 20 years. The idea, an album that chronicles their ascent, their downfall, their silence, and their reconciliation. Speaking anonymously, one producer stated, "This isn't just music, it's confession and ministry, it's closure." If accurate, the album is anticipated to combine contemporary production with old-school gospel roots, drawing inspiration from CeCe's worship ballads, Marvin's traditional preaching style, and BeBe's soulful R&B gospel fusion. However, the lyrics will most significantly represent their journey, songs about spiritual disconnection, forgiveness, family, and yes, even regret. In addition to the album, there are even rumors of a Netflix documentary series that would follow the project's development, the family's tearful reunions, and the long-forgotten conversations. The suggested title, Wins After the Silence, has been floated. However, despite the possibility of music and cameras, Marvin has made one point very clear in a recent sermon. The heartbeat of this whole story lies in the fact that behind the Grammys, the awards, the public smiles, and the social media posts are three siblings who were brought up to worship as much as to entertain. "I'm not returning to the stage for applause, I'm returning for alignment. If we do this, it won't be for charts." But now the silence is breaking, the calls are being answered, the letters are being read, and perhaps, just perhaps, the Wan legacy is writing its most significant chapter yet. They stood together on Sunday mornings as kids, sharing pulpits, microphones and praise. What can we learn from this? We often view celebrities, particularly in the gospel community, as unflappable, above the fray, and spiritually flawless, but in reality, they are just people with wounds, pride, purpose, and the same intense need for healing that we all carry. Whether the reunion album or Netflix documentary is released or not, one thing is for sure. What do you think? Was this reunion a genuine moment of healing, or just a well-timed move, following Marvin's emotional confession? Do you think BeBe and CeCe are truly ready to reconnect with Marvin, and restore what's been lost over the years? Leave your thoughts in the comments below. The work of reconciliation has begun, not for the cameras, not for the critics, but for the family, for the calling, for the faith. And perhaps that's the gospel message in all of this. We're watching all of them. If the tale of forgiveness, faith and family touched you, please hit the like button. If you want to see more in-depth truthful videos like this one, subscribe to our channel. Also remember to share this video with someone who needs a reminder that even the most painful wounds can be healed. If a new album is released, you'll be the first to know about it here. Keep brave, keep blessed, and stay tuned until then.